Imagine this. The day has ended. You are alone in your room. The door is closed. The streets outside are quiet. And the only light is the faint, cold glow of a screen illuminating the shadows on your wall. In these hidden moments, when the world falls silent, you believe you are completely alone. Your physical body is resting, but deep within your spirit there is a heavy, unspoken exhaustion. A sudden spiritual vulnerability, a weight you cannot explain. This feeling is not a coincidence. It is your soul recognizing a profound spiritual truth that has been intentionally hidden from us for thousands of years. In the ancient Nag Hammadi texts, discovered in the Egyptian desert in 1945, there are fragments of profound teachings that the early institutional church desperately tried to silence, bury, burn, and condemn as heretical. These were not mere theological debates. They were direct, urgent warnings from Jesus to his inner circle of chosen disciples. He was teaching them exactly how to navigate this dense, material world without being manipulated, drained, and chained by the unseen forces that rule the darkness. What you are about to discover today will fundamentally shatter your understanding of hidden sin, spiritual energy, and the real reason why so many sincere believers feel trapped in states of low frequency. You might be praying daily, seeking holiness and attending services, yet you still feel an invisible chain, pulling you down into fear, isolation, and spiritual weakness. The moment the sun goes down, take a deep breath. Let your body settle into this exact moment. What I am about to share with you will challenge everything you thought you knew about your private life and your connection to the divine. We have been conditioned to believe that secret habits are merely private moral failings, simple mistakes that God forgives in the morning. But the unseen entities of this world, the archons, the spiritual forces of darkness, do not possess physical bodies. They cannot eat bread or drink water, but they must feed. They feed specifically on the low-frequency emotional energy that humans produce when they are caught in endless cycles of hidden shame, guilt, and isolation. And there are specific, secret habits, routines you might be slipping into every single night that are perfectly designed to generate this exact frequency and feed your spiritual chains. The chains Jesus warned his chosen ones about are not forged of iron. They are forged in the quiet, isolated hours of the night. When the sun goes down, our spiritual walls naturally drop. The modern world tells you that what happens in the dark stays in the dark. They tell you that your late-night routines are harmless. It is just you, your glowing screen, your private thoughts, and your hidden indulgences. But this is exactly what the demiurge, the false creator of this material realm, designed. The archons, his unseen servants, maintain this system of isolation. They know perfectly well that a believer standing in the daylight, surrounded by a loving community and acting in truth, is vibrating at a frequency of accountability and divine connection. They cannot touch that high frequency. It burns them. So, what is their strategy? They isolate you. They wait patiently for the night to fall. They gently push you toward the empty room, the secret tab on your browser, the hidden conversation, the solitary indulgence. They have heavily influenced human systems to create addictive technologies and late-night habits that pull you into a state of profound spiritual numbness. When you engage in these secret habits, your body and mind produce a very specific energetic signature. It is a dense, heavy cocktail of temporary, some hollow pleasure, immediately followed by shame, guilt, and the subtle, lingering fear of being discovered. This is their feast. This is the exact low-frequency energy they require to survive and maintain their grip on you. You are not just struggling with a bad habit or a lack of discipline. You are actively participating in a spiritual transaction. in the Gospel of Luke. Chapter 12, there is a teaching that has been misunderstood and weaponized for 2 millennia. Jesus says, "What you have spoken in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in inner rooms will be proclaimed from the roofs." The institutional church taught this purely as a message of fear and moral punishment, that an angry God is watching your every secret move just to condemn you. But the Gnostics knew better. Jesus was not speaking metaphorically, and he was not threatening his disciples. He was teaching them spiritual physics. He was telling his chosen ones that there is no true secrecy in the energetic realm. Every time you yield to a hidden habit in the dark, you emit a frequency that echoes loudly throughout the spiritual matrix. You open a door in your energetic field, dude. You are literally extending a lifeline to the very entities that wish to keep your soul anchored to this dense, heavy world. By trying to keep your sins a secret, you become the battery that powers your own spiritual prison. Here is exactly what happens energetically when you engage in these hidden nighttime habits. Within minutes of yielding to that secret routine, whether it is endless scrolling through digital illusions, isolating yourself in the cold glow of a screen, or engaging in private sins you would never speak of in the daylight, your physical and spiritual vessels are hijacked. Your brain is flooded with cheap, synthetic dopamine. It spikes violently and then inevitably crashes, leaving your nervous system entirely depleted. But spiritually, something much darker and more permanent is taking place. Your pineal gland, which the ancient Gnostics referred to as the eye of the soul, begins to cloud over and shut down, not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, night after night, secret after secret, year after year. When this delicate spiritual receptor is bombarded by the heavy, dense vibrations of hidden shame and artificial stimulation, it can no longer clearly receive the pure frequency of the source. The divine hum becomes harder to hear. Spiritual downloads become rare, synchronicity fades away, and you are left with the distinct, painful feeling that you are trying to establish a divine connection through thick, heavy static. This is exactly why so many of the chosen ones feel chronically exhausted. This is why your morning prayers feel hollow, as if they are hitting the ceiling and falling back down. This is why fasting and meditation seem infinitely harder for you than they should be. It is not because you are fundamentally flawed. It is not because the Creator has abandoned you. It is because your spiritual perception has been deliberately impaired by the very habits you have been tricked into using as harmless coping mechanisms in the dark. And here is the most crucial point. The archons know exactly how to keep you just below the frequency threshold where true spiritual activation occurs. They are absolutely terrified of a fully awakened believer. So, their strategy is to keep you close enough to the light to sense the truth, but weighed down enough by secret guilt that you never fully embody your power. They thrive on your endless cycle of failure and regret. Every time you fall in the dark and wake up drowning in sorrow and repentance, you generate a massive surge of low-frequency emotional energy. Fear, regret, despair. That is their harvest. That is how your secret habits become the very chains that bind your soul to their matrix. Look deeply at how the modern world is designed. What you consider simple entertainment or personal relaxation time at night is actually an intricate, highly advanced spiritual matrix. The archons, the unseen rulers of this dense realm, cannot create anything of their own. They can only distort and manipulate what the Creator has already made. They have taken the natural human need for rest, comfort, and connection, and twisted it into a digital trap, a massive, silent isolation chamber. Think about the glowing devices you hold in your hands. the endless algorithms on your screens. These are not just lifeless lines of code. They are highly efficient energy harvesting machines. They are specifically designed to keep you awake longer, to gently push you toward habits that stimulate your base curiosity, your cravings, and your deepest hidden desires in the dark. With every repetitive, mindless action, every time you click on an image, a video, or sink into a thought pattern you know you should not entertain, you are voluntarily surrendering your own life force. You might think you are simply recharging or soothing yourself after a long, exhausting day, but in reality, you are being actively drained. That profound exhaustion, the heavy brain fog you feel the next morning, is not just physiological sleep deprivation. It is spiritual depletion. It is the lingering residue of an energetic attack that you willingly opened the door to, right there in your locked, private room, in the ancient texts, particularly in the Pistis Sophia. Jesus explained to Mary Magdalene the fundamental difference between light and density. He taught her a profound truth. Those who take in density remain dense. Those who take in light become light. For centuries, the institutional church and scholars assumed this was merely poetic or metaphorical. But the Gnostics, the inner circle, understood that this is a literal law of spiritual physics. Your secret habits, the media you consume, the thoughts you entertain, the guilt you bury in the shadows carry an incredibly heavy energetic weight. When you absorb them, you are literally dragging the vibrational frequency of your soul down to its lowest possible level. You turn your physical vessel into a magnet for despair, stagnation, and fear. Have you ever wondered why? No matter how many times you pray and vow to change, you fall right back into the exact same pattern of hidden sin. Why you feel split into two different people, a sincere believer craving holiness by day, and a weak, defeated victim by night. It is not just the simple moral failure you condemn yourself for. It is a spiritual prison loop. The archons have bound you using your own desperate desire to escape your pain and loneliness. They provide you with temporary, hollow sedatives in the form of secret habits, just to ensure you never awaken enough to realize the invincible power of the divine spark resting inside you. I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. You are feeling a deep, heavy conviction in your chest, but your mind is desperately searching for an excuse. You are asking, what am I supposed to do? The night is the only time I have to myself. It is the only time the world stops demanding things from me. Please hear me carefully. This is not about condemning your genuine need for rest. It is about understanding the vital difference between true spiritual restoration and energetic harvesting. Look at the Essenes, the mystical desert community that many scholars believe Jesus and his family were deeply connected to. They had incredibly strict laws, but these were not the hypocritical, ritualistic laws of the Pharisees. They had profound laws regarding the night. They understood the frequency of the dark hours, while the rest of the ancient world used the night to indulge the flesh, to scheme or to slip into unprotected unconsciousness. The Essenes practiced what they called the watch. They kept their spiritual gates fiercely guarded. They knew that when the physical sun disappears, the atmospheric density changes. They understood that the eyes and the ears are the literal energetic gates to the soul. If you leave those gates wide open to the world's dense frequencies when your physical body is most exhausted, you are inviting spiritual decay directly into your temple. Jesus grew up understanding this profound reality. This is exactly why the Gospels constantly record him withdrawing to the mountains to pray alone at night. He wasn't just looking for a quiet place to escape the crowds. He was actively and intentionally occupying the darkest hours with the highest possible frequency, direct, unbroken communion with the source. He was demonstrating to his inner circle how to conquer the exact time frame when the archons are most active and hungry. But over the centuries, the institutional church completely lost this esoteric understanding. They reduced the concept of sin to a simple behavioral checklist, stripping away the energetic and spiritual reality behind it. And today, the unseen rulers of this age have completely inverted the concept of the night. They have convinced millions of sincere, truth-seeking believers that staying up late, staring into the blue light abyss of a screen, consuming mindless digital entertainment, and yielding to hidden indulgences is somehow a form of self-care or unwinding. This is not an accident. It is a brilliantly disguised spiritual intervention. They made these nighttime habits cheap, easily accessible, and profoundly addictive. They normalized it so thoroughly that it feels entirely natural. They wrap their trap in the comforting lie that everyone does it, and you deserve a break. It has become so deeply woven into our emotional coping mechanisms that questioning these habits feels like an attack on your only source of comfort. But hear this, the chosen ones are not here to conform to the Matrix's definition of comfort. You are here to remember the ultimate truth. You are a divine spark housed in a temporary physical vessel. Your mind and body form a highly sensitive spiritual antenna. Anything that overloads that antenna, anything that creates static, anything that deliberately lowers your vibrational frequency in the dark, must be examined and cast out, not with religious shame, not with crushing guilt, but with absolute, unflinching clarity. So, what happens when you finally decide to close the doors? What happens when you turn off the glowing screens? Step away from the hidden indulgences and choose to sit in the pure stillness of the night with only the presence of the Creator. I must warn you, it will not be peaceful at first. When you stop feeding your spiritual chains, the unseen entities that have been harvesting your energy will not simply walk away quietly. They will fight back. They will make you feel as though the silence is deafening and terrifying. They will flood your mind with a sudden, overwhelming wave of anxiety, loneliness, and the desperate, burning urge to just check one last thing or watch one more video to numb the quiet. This intense resistance you feel in the dark is not your own weakness. It is the undeniable, physical proof that the archons are starving. When you deny them their nightly feast of your low-frequency emotions, they will panic. They will try to convince you that you are missing out on something important, that you absolutely cannot sleep without the digital noise, or that your secret habit is the only thing keeping your daily stress at bay. You will toss and turn, your physical body, heavily addicted to the synthetic dopamine spikes and the dense energetic weight, will literally go into a state of spiritual withdrawal. You might experience sudden irritability, a racing heart, or a profound, heavy sense of isolation whispering that you are completely alone. But you must understand this crucial spiritual law. Your soul is not craving the sin. The foreign parasitic energy is simply fighting as it leaves your body. The Apostle Paul wrote to the Ephesians, warning them that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age. He was not speaking of a distant, abstract battle in the clouds. He was speaking of the war happening right inside your bedroom at 2 a.m. He was speaking of the hidden silent wrestling match for your attention, your purity, and your divine life force. If you belong to the chosen ones, if you feel that deep, unshakable calling in your spirit, you must push through this initial resistance. You must endure the first few nights of uncomfortable, Raw silence. Do not reach for the device. Do not open the secret tab. Do not entertain the familiar shadows. Let the anxiety rise and let it pass through you without attaching your identity to it. Because what is waiting for you on the other side of that uncomfortable silence is the exact spiritual breakthrough, the profound clarity, and the overwhelming peace you have been begging God for during the day. By the third or fourth night of fiercely guarding your spiritual gates, the heavy, suffocating withdrawal will begin to break. The unseen entities, the archons that have fed on your secret shame and late-night digital anxiety for years, will realize their access has been severed. Their panic will lose its grip on your mind. As you sit in the pure, uncontaminated silence of your room, your physical and spiritual vessels will realize they are no longer being poisoned by density. The thick, invisible fog of guilt and artificial stimulation will finally begin to lift. This is when the profound energetic healing begins. Your pineal gland, the spiritual eye that has been clouded by the low frequencies of the modern matrix, starts to clear. The static interference that you accede was just normal. Everyday stress will dissolve. In its place, you will begin to perceive a pure, resonant frequency. The ringing in your ears will shift into a conscious, divine hum. You will start to notice undeniable changes. Your sleep will no longer feel like a heavy, unconscious death, but a true spiritual restoration. Your dreams will shift from chaotic, stress-induced fragments into vivid, lucid moments of clarity and prophetic insight. Synchronicity will return to your daily life. You will ask a question in your heart and receive the answer before the morning comes. When Jesus spoke to his chosen ones, saying, "I am the bread of life," he was not speaking of physical flour and water, and the Gnostics knew he was not merely using a poetic metaphor for religious belief. In the original Aramaic, he spoke. The word for bread was lakma, which translates deeply as sustenance, the vital force that sustains true life. He was offering a direct, high-frequency transmission of source energy. He was teaching them how to consume the light. But here is the absolute truth of spiritual physics. You cannot consume this high-frequency bread if your spirit is already bloated with the dense, rotting sustenance of secret habits and nighttime illusions. You cannot hear the whisper of the divine if your ears are filled with the screaming algorithms of the demiurge. You must empty the vessel first, by refusing to engage in the secret habits that chain you. You create a spiritual vacuum, and the universe never leaves a vacuum empty. When you stop consuming the darkness, the light rushes in to fill the space. You stop being a battery for the archons, and you become a direct conduit for the Creator. You begin to vibrate at a frequency that the rulers of this matrix cannot even perceive, let alone manipulate. You become spiritually invisible to the enemy. Here is the exact protocol. It is not a new religious law, and it is not a heavy set of legalistic rules designed to make you feel like a failure. It is a precise, targeted spiritual procedure. I am challenging you to a 9-night watch. For exactly 9 nights, you must completely shut down the artificial portals in your room. When the sun goes down and the house falls quiet, you do not open the secret browser tab. You do not endlessly scroll through the glowing digital void. You do not engage in the private, hidden indulgences that leave you feeling drained, empty, and deeply ashamed by morning. 9 nights, not a lifelong vow that will overwhelm you right now, just 9 nights. During these 9 nights, I want you to become a fierce, active observer of your own spiritual vessel. Pay incredibly close attention to your sleep. Watch your dreams carefully. Because without the heavy density of late-night digital static clogging your spiritual receptors, your dreams will cease to be chaotic, fear-based stress loops. They will transform into vivid prophetic landscapes where true spiritual downloads occur. Watch the ringing in your ears. Notice how the chaotic mental noise and the heavy brain fog slowly tune themselves into a clear, single, resonant frequency. Notice how quickly you begin to receive direct, undeniable answers to the prayers you have been desperately whispering into the dark for years. 9 nights is exactly how long it takes for your spiritual and physical body to begin aggressively purging the heavy, low-frequency residue of your secret habits. 9 nights is enough to restart the delicate, divine antenna of your soul. It is enough time for you to truly, physically feel the staggering difference between operating under the heavy suppression of the demiurge's system and operating as a clear, unobstructed channel of the Creator. An awakened believer operating at their true God-given frequency is completely untouchable. The archons, the unseen entities that rule the shadows of this material matrix, absolutely cannot feed on high-frequency energy. They cannot digest it, and they cannot even perceive it. When you vibrate with the pure light of accountability, divine stillness, and unbroken connection, you literally become invisible to the parasitic system that has been draining you. This is exactly what the enemy fears most. They do not fear your religious labels or your daytime church attendance. They fear your frequency in the dark. They are terrified of the moment you finally realize that the power to shatter your spiritual chains has always been entirely in your own hands. As you step into this 9-night watch, you must be entirely prepared for the Archon's most subtle and deceptive tactic. Once the initial violent withdrawal of the first few nights begins to fade, they will not always attack you with obvious fear or heavy anxiety. Instead, their most effective weapon becomes the illusion of harmlessness. They will whisper quietly into your mind that you are taking this far too seriously. They will weaponize your own rational thoughts against you, suggesting that scrolling through your phone for just 5 minutes, or engaging in one small, hidden indulgence, is completely normal. Everyone does it, the voice will say. You worked incredibly hard today. You deserve to unwind. It is just innocent entertainment. This is the absolute genius of the archontic intervention. Their trap does not look evil. It looks like modern culture. It looks like harmless relaxation. It feels so deeply integrated into the emotional fabric of your daily routine that questioning it feels extreme, almost fanatical. But you must remember the chosen ones are not here to preserve the comfortable traditions of a fallen matrix. You are here to remember the ultimate, piercing truth of your existence. In the Gospels, Jesus constantly warned his disciples to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. The institutional church taught this merely as a warning against religious hypocrisy, but the Gnostic inner circle understood the deeper energetic reality of leaven, or yeast. Leaven represents a microscopic agent of fermentation, a slow, unseen process of decay that puffs up and fundamentally alters the entire batch of dough from the inside out. In the spiritual realm, your secret nighttime habits are exactly that leaven. They seem incredibly small and insignificant in the moment, just a tiny, hidden indulgence in the dark. But energetic decay spreads rapidly. It infects your morning prayer. It clouds your daytime discernment, and it completely strips you of your spiritual authority. You must begin to view your physical body not just as flesh and bone, but as a highly sensitive, divine antenna. Everything you consume in the isolated hours of the night, every digital image, every spoken word, every hidden thought you entertain either tunes that antenna to the pure frequency of the Creator, or it creates heavy, suffocating static. When you feel that sudden burning urge to break your 9-night watch, you must recognize it for what it truly is. It is not your soul asking for comfort. It is the parasitic entities of this realm desperately trying to re-establish the energetic static before they starve and lose their grip on you completely. Do not give them that satisfaction. The teaching of Jesus in these hidden texts was never primarily about religious morality or behavioral modification as we understand it today. It was always about frequency for centuries. This profound truth was buried beneath institutional rituals, mistranslations, and deliberate obscuration by the rulers of this age. But now, in this exact moment in history, it is being restored, not because I am anyone special, but because you are finally ready to hear it. The chosen ones living today are the specific generation destined to rediscover these buried truths. The Nag Hammadi library was not discovered in the Egyptian desert in 1945 by mere coincidence. These sacred texts were sealed in clay jars and hidden in the 4th century, waiting patiently for the precise moment when souls capable of understanding them would be incarnated on earth to receive them. You are those souls, and this teaching, the revelation of what you must consume and what you must fiercely protect your nighttime hours from, is a vital part of your spiritual activation sequence. You simply cannot raise your vibrational frequency as long as you continue to willingly engage in the dense, heavy habits that keep you anchored to the demiurge's matrix. This is not a divine punishment. It is spiritual physics. Frequency and matter obey undeniable universal laws, and the most fundamental of these laws is that like attracts like. He who consumes density in the dark attracts density. He who consumes the light becomes the light. After your 9-night watch, you will know this truth in your very bones. You will physically and spiritually feel the staggering difference. And then, you will be faced with a choice. You can always choose to return to your old nighttime habits, to the glowing screens and the hidden indulgences. Or you can choose to move forward in absolute clarity. No one will force you. No one will condemn you. The true creator does not operate on religious guilt or manipulation. This is purely about your frequency, and your frequency is always your personal choice. But you must know this once you actually feel the profound difference. Once you have experienced what it is like to operate as a clear, unblocked channel of divine energy without the heavy, suffocating static of secret habits. It becomes incredibly difficult to return to the chains, because you will finally understand exactly what you have been missing your entire life. You will finally know what it feels like to be truly free, unbound by the unseen entities that feed on your isolation. And that single realization changes absolutely everything. If this teaching has triggered something deep within your soul, if you physically felt its truth resonating in your spirit even before your logical mind could fully process it, then I want you to comment below this video with the word clarity. Let it be your declaration in the spiritual realm. Let it be a signal so that the other chosen ones reading the comments will know, without a shadow of a doubt, that they are not fighting this battle in the dark alone.